afternoon, everyone. I'm Ali Jafari. I oversee the direct sales business across Europe for Twitter. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is to hopefully not only think about Twitter as a social media tool, but as a real-time marketing platform. And I'd like to start by showing a photo which was taken in 1950 by a photographer named Jacques Lowe. It's JFK on election night when he was elected into his second term. Jacques Lowe was the family photographer who took this photo. The photo wasn't discovered until recently, and his family used various media outlets to distribute this photo. Flash forward to today, when Barack Obama in 2012 sent out this iconic photo on Twitter and Facebook, celebrating the fact that he had been elected into the White House for 4 more years. To this day, it's the most popular tweet on the platform. It's been retweeted and favorited over 1 million times. So in a span of 60 years, we've gone from content taking years and years to be discovered to being discovered real time. So throughout history, we've told stories, we've had conversations, and we've used the campfire as a metaphor to sit around and talk to one another. And we think of the hashtag as the modern-day campfire, as the tool that organizes conversations across the web. First sketch and rendering of Twitter by our founder, Jack Dorsey. He envisioned the tool as a real-time status update. So what started out as a simple communication tool is something that now connects the world. This is the very first tweet that was sent out by Jack in 2006. It read, "Just setting up my Twitter." And earlier this month, he had a conversation with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, who has taken to the platform to spread the word and make sure the citizens of Iran who have historically been deprived of information online receive communications. Jack asked him if the citizens of Iran were able to read his tweets. He confirmed that they indeed were, and Jack asked him if there's anything that he could do to help. So intimate conversations between 2 important people in the world, and we, for the very first time, have a lens into those conversations. We have 230 million active users worldwide. An active user is anyone who logs on to Twitter at least once per month, either via mobile or web. Over 3 billion tweets published on a weekly basis. A lot of content, a lot of conversation occurring on the platform. And 75% of our monthly active users use the product via mobile. Twitter is a mobile-first product. All of our product development occurs on mobile, and the majority of our revenue comes via mobile. So we think the 3 things that distinguish Twitter as a platform are that it's live, public, and conversational. And the other way to think about that is real-time, unfiltered, and asymmetric. I'm going to show you an example of a recent event that shows each of these things at play.
Second match, Murray. Reset still out. 6-4, 7-5, 6-4.
This is, of course, the Murray-Djokovic final from Wimbledon earlier this year, where Andy Murray brought home the Wimbledon crown to Great Britain for the first time in 77 years. We saw over 3 million tweets during the 12 hours preceding, during, and after the match. And immediately after the match, Victoria Beckham sent out a congratulatory tweet to Andy Murray. And the man himself tweeted out, "Can't believe what just happened." So live conversations being delivered to users within context. Andy Roddick, fellow tennis pro, congratulating Andy Murray, and Andy Murray responding that he hoped all was well with him. And then Adidas, one of Andy Murray's sponsors, put out this piece of creative which read Wimbledon. Adidas likely produced this piece of creative well in advance of the match. They knew that Andy Murray was playing Djokovic. They knew one of the two was going to win the match. And they took advantage of that fact to produce a really compelling piece of creative, but to distribute it via Twitter in a real-time, contextually relevant fashion. So what's the greatest opportunity for brand relevance when you take all of this into consideration? So we think it comes down to identifying the right consumers and conversations and delivering them the right context and right content. So let's talk about the right consumers and conversations. Everyday conversations can be your marketing moments on Twitter. And because Twitter is public, because it's live, we're able to measure that conversation. So we know when people are hungry on Twitter. This is the pattern of people talking about hungry throughout the course of the week. We know when people want to run on Twitter. This is the pattern of people talking about running on the platform. And we know when people are tired. This is an example of a recent hashtag, why can't I sleep at night, where users were talking about being tired or talking about why they can't sleep. And the brand ZQL took advantage of that by sending out a promoted tweet which read, seriously, these tweets will still be here tomorrow, let's go to bed together. Another example of a funny, contextually relevant tweet that takes advantage of real-time conversation. This isn't an ad, it's not promoting anything, but I think it increases the brand affinity for the people who are having a conversation about not being able to go to bed. So let's next talk about Twitter and TV. Twitter's truly become the second screen. It's something that evolved naturally. People go to Twitter to talk about real-time events, and that extends to television. I'll start by showing a photo of a famous psychologist named Stanley Milgram, who in the 1900s studied human behavior. His hypothesis was that as more people do something, the likelihood of other people doing that same thing increases exponentially. And the way he studied this was he went out into the streets and he asked people to look up at the sky. And based on the number of people looking up at the sky, he measured the probability that passerbys would also look up at the sky. So across the x-axis, you have the number of people looking up. And across the y-axis, you have the probability of passerbys looking up. So if you're walking down the street and 0 people are looking up, you're likely not going to look up. But if just 5 people are looking up, there's an 80% chance that you'll do the same thing. So attention is steered by the visible crowd, and we see this every day when television programs air and when people take to the platform to talk about television programs. So let me show you an example of how that's reflected. So this is a popular television program called The X Factor, and the figures in front of the screen represent the total viewing population in the UK. So the show airs, and one user tweets that Sharon Osbourne is just the best ever. I'm laughing uncontrollably with the hashtag X Factor. We know the user's likely watching the show because they're using the hashtag. And that tweet travels to that user's follower. And throughout the rest of the show, the rest of the followers of that user see that same tweet. Some of them might see it between the 8 to 9 p.m. hour when the show is airing. While others see it well after the broadcast window, depending on when they're logging onto the platform. So take that same example. And multiply it by the millions of people who are tuned into X Factor are on Twitter talking about that show, and you get millions and millions of impressions. And we've quantified this. We're able to count the number of impressions delivered to users when a television show is airing. And in this particular example, this was an August 31st airing of the show X Factor. We saw 18 million unique impressions, the majority of which were delivered during the hour-long broadcast of the show. So what's the opportunity for brands? How do brands fit into this? So this represents the volume of television shows that users can tune into on any given night. And here's the total viewing population for those shows. So let's take a look at one show. This is the television show Glee, popular program in the US. About 4 million people tune in every week. So this represents the total volume of people watching the show Glee, and the people in blue are the ones who are watching the show and also tweeting about it. And as we saw on the prior slide, you have the millions and millions of impressions that are occurring during the television program. Underneath that, you've got the hundreds of advertisers who are running television spots across these shows. And what we're able to do using Twitter technology, I'll first show you an example of Volkswagen, who ran a television spot during the airing of Glee. And what we're able to do using our technology is to go to Volkswagen and say, you ran a television spot during Glee. We know who was watching Glee, but also who was tweeting about Glee during the airing of the show, and allow them to remarket to those people. So if what we're seeing for the first time is true cross-channel marketing, and taking advantage of the fact that Twitter's the second screen, people are watching television while they're tweeting, and allowing marketers to remarket to those people. And if you take that example and apply it to the dozens of spots that Volkswagen is running across various television shows, you get an exponential effect of millions and millions of remarketing impressions being delivered to consumers. So does it work? We've run studies that show there's a 95% stronger message association when you combine TV and Twitter, and nearly a 60% lift in higher purchase intent. So for the campaigns that we've run so far, we've seen positive results and we've seen promising results. TV conversations are often predictable. I'll show you an example of conversation volume for the movie Shawshank Redemption. The top one is an airing that occurred in April, and the bottom one is an airing that occurred in August. And you see the exact same flow of volume of conversation with spikes at the beginning, the middle, and the end. So human behavior, human patterns are predictable, and we're able to very easily measure that on the platform. But there are also unexpected moments that we encourage marketers to prepare for and to think about. Last year's Super Bowl, for example, when the lights went out for 45 minutes during the game, this is the top-rated event during the US. Advertisers spend millions and millions of dollars investing in the advertising for the Super Bowl. Oreo was one of the biggest sponsors on the program. And they took advantage of the fact that the lights went out, and conversation volume, by the way, spiked on Twitter when this happened, not surprisingly, and put out a tweet which read, "Power out, no problem. You can still dunk in the dark." It was the most popular ad during the Super Bowl. It was retweeted 16,000 times and favorited 6,000 times. They had no idea that the lights were going to go out during this event, but they had a team that was watching the game, that was putting together creative, that was going through all of the appropriate approval processes to be able to put out something like this while the game was airing, and saw really good results. So let's next talk about the right context and content. When we ask people why they follow brands on Twitter, these are the 6 answers that we get most often. They're looking for discounts and offers, but they're also looking for other things. They want fun and entertainment. They want exclusive content. They want to hear about upcoming sales. They want brand and product news. And lastly, a really popular use case of the platform, they want customer service. So what we encourage brands to do is to simply tell consumers the truth. This is an example of ING Bank in Turkey, who ran a campaign around the television show Survivor, where they encourage users to use a hashtag and drive down the interest rates of the bank. Based on the tweet volume, interest rates went from 1% down to 0.58%. Famous Magnum ice cream example last year, where Magnum asked users to vote for the pink bar or the black bar, and based on the results, lit up various monuments across the city in the color pink. And those are examples of one-way conversations. There are also really effective two-way conversations that you can have with your followers. I'll show you a personal example. This is a tweet that I sent out a couple years ago on a flight from San Francisco to Disneyland. This is our son Charles enjoying a television program on JetBlue before the flight went off. Before the flight took off, I tweeted out thanks along with a picture of Charles. And when we landed, JetBlue said no thank you, great pick, way to rock the onboard entertainment. That, for me, certainly increases my brand affinity and my opinion of the airline. So to wrap up, how will you succeed in the moment? What are the things that we want you to take away? There are 3 things. We want brands to not be afraid of taking risks, to always listen to what people are saying about them and their products, and to be prepared. And I'll show you one last campaign that we believe took advantage of all 3 of these things. It's from Honda, who recently released the Honda Odyssey with a built-in HVAC, a built-in vacuum cleaner, and took to the platform to take on some iconic brands like Cheerios. This was a tweet they sent out which read, "Big fan of Cheerios, but your days of hiding under the minivan seats are numbered. Odyssey with available built-in Honda HVAC," along with a picture of the vacuum cleaner sucking up the Cheerios. Similar tweet to Lego, which read, "Dear at Lego Group, friendly reminder, bricks on the floor are mine. Your fan, the Odyssey with an available Honda HVAC." And given the popularity of this series, they continued by taking on Taco Bell. They sent out a tweet which read, "Dear at Taco Bell Crumbs, if you fall on my floor, you will be no mas. Yours truly, the Honda Odyssey Touring Elite with built-in Honda HVAC." Taco Bell actually responded and said, "At Honda, your vacuum cleaner sucks. No, really?" And Honda responded back and said, "Really, at Taco Bell, after all those late nights we had together at the drive-through window." So brands talking to one another in really authentic ways, in really fun ways. None of these things are ads. They're truly content, and I think they deliver compelling messages. And the last example that I show was from one of our own employees. It's a guy named Ben Jack Thomas, who sent out a tweet that read, "Very impressed with at Honda's HVAC versus US Snack Foods live campaign. Check out the feed here." And Honda took the time to respond and wrote back, at Ben Jack Thomas, "We're really impressed with you, Ben Jack Thomas, and your 3 first names." And we have a lot of fun with Ben internally because he does have 3 first names. And so for Honda to latch onto that and to take the time to embed that in the tweet was really meaningful. It doesn't mean that Ben's going to go out and buy a Honda the next day or recommend to his friends and family that they should buy a Honda. But again, we believe that it increases his brand affinity and his opinion of the brand. Thank you.